Student-Centered Strategies. Brought to you by Education and Training Associates. Powered by Siena Education Services.
Instructivist, cognitive, and constructivist. We're going to talk about surface versus deep learning approaches. Surface learning, some things you only learn on the surface because you only need to know a surface amount. But other things you better have a deep understanding of. I keep thinking of electricians. As John pointed out to us, you can die from household current, 120 volts. People have died with 50 amps. Volts, 50 volts. I think you better have a deep understanding of that if you want to be an electrician and you want to continue being an electrician for more than a week. We're going to talk about Bloom's taxonomy. See, now, I used words like hierarchy and taxonomy and stuff, but I don't worry about that because you're smart. If you don't know what it means, you'll go back in the glossary and look it up. We're going to talk about improving the learning environment and individualizing each kind of curriculum. What I'm doing today is instructivist. It's traditional. It's a good place to begin, especially when it's high-tech or a lot of difficult information that they've never been exposed to. Things that outside of in the school they never would have seen, learned, or known. They learn by instruction. It includes lectures, structured texts, graded exercises, and problems. The behaviors of students is stimulus response. I ask a question, you answer it. I assign a think, pair, share question, you answer it. It's stimulus response. The most important thing is, how do I teach this? How do I make this as interesting as I can and keep people involved? The teaching strategies really matter. It's very goal-oriented because I'm going to throw a test at you at the end, and that's what's going to happen. We have to break the skill down into little bites because you can't teach everything at once, and you have to analyze it. You have to break that skill down into bites. Because what you do when you do your job, it's automatic. How much thought, Gulton, how much thought do you have to give to sectioning hair? Not much at all. Can you do that while you're thinking about 10,000 other things? Can I do that without thought while I'm thinking of 10? No, thank you very much. I cannot. You have to analyze that skill that to you is automatic. Things you do automatically. You have to go back and say, oh yeah, here's what you got to do first. Then you got to do this. Then you got to do that. You also have to remember that some of the shortcuts you employ as you get experience in the field are not good shortcuts for people who are new to the field. The cognitive approach. Yeah, it begins with a neat statement on a learning objective. Here, today in the lab, you're going to do this because you're going to be doing it in the real world. When you have finished, I will be evaluating how you did it. and this is the standard I will use. I will define my terms. I will try to make everything as clear as possible. I'll follow the curriculum. I'll make sure what you're doing is part of the curriculum. But I will be spontaneous because you are actually doing it. So I have to have some spontaneity. I guide you to discovery. Let's see. In New York State, to pass the cosmetology exam, you need to do finger waves. Finger waves have to be 1 finger, 2 fingers, and 3 fingers apart. They are, Lord help me, I've tried. They are all but impossible, and the students find them all but impossible.
They still have to do this? Yeah.
Yep. So, I have taught them to do it, but now I have to guide them. They have to actually try their hand, make mistakes, do this right, do that. I'm just there to say, this would be easier if you used your comb this way. That's what my job is at this point in the cognitive learning. Before they do it, vary your presentation. Tell them, today we're going to do this, here's why we're going to do it, here's how we're going to do it differently than you've done it before. You add things, subtract things. You encourage questions. As the student is doing something, you encourage them to ask you a question. I can't get this thing to bend right. I can't get the right angle. Ask. Then I can help you. You can use think, pair, share at the end. Students should know what's coming next, shouldn't they? When they finish with this job in the lab, what are they going to do tomorrow in the lab? And it's guided by what they will be doing in the work world when they're finished. The last one is the constructivist approach. Learning is viewed as an individual and a social process. In other words, they do some of the work individually, but they can use their social connections to get information or add skills. The student's goals are most important. The student's activities and interactions are the base of learning. It's real life experience. Most of the learning is outside of class. So you will be dismissed 6 hours early so you can do this tomorrow. If I'm going to ask you to do a 6-hour project, I got to give you time to do 6 hours. There's less structured learning. There's coaching as needed. In a normal situation, in a regular classroom situation, if I were your supervising teacher and I had worked with you on a project, I would meet with you regularly to see where you are, to see how you're doing, to see if there are some problems, if you run into any walls. And I will be available on a regular basis with my hours posted in my where I am so you can come see me if you're having problems. It is a holistic approach to learning. What makes this different from the cognitive and the instructive? In both instructive and cognitive. Listen to this. This is important. The student can only know what you know. Think about it. They can only know what you know. Do you know everything about your own field? I don't. I've been teaching for 48 years and I don't know everything about my own field. Nobody can, nobody does. The constructive approach, the whole world is theirs to discover the answers to their project or what they are doing. Top universities use this very much. It's a big part of graduate school. Anybody going for a master's degree, you're going to have a professor whom you report to, and you're going to be doing varying projects, and especially when it comes time to do a thesis. The way it works at the college level is when you go to a college that uses this system, first they analyze. They give you some tests to see where you're at with language skills, math skills, all the necessary skills for the career in which you are working in. And they test that. And if you're deficient in any, you need to take formal, regular classes until your scores reach an acceptable level and your knowledge is acceptable. Once that happens, the projects are assigned from within the field they're going to work. In my case, the projects would be education projects. It's independent, negotiated learning. You can let people work in a group. Here's my rule. 2 people to a team. Tell you why. If you got 3, there's 2 doing the work and 1's doing nothing. If you got 4, there's 1 person doing the work and 3 are doing nothing. I allow teams of 2. They focus on personal development. Their growth in the field is what matters. It's problem-based. There's a problem, they have to solve it. Or there's a project they need doing, and they have to find out how to do it and do it. It encourages the students to think, reflect, do some research. One word about research. When you assign a constructivist project to your 20-somethings and 19-somethings, and they start using the internet, they all believe every word in Wikipedia is true. They believe that if they saw it in Wikipedia, it's a fact. No, it's not. It's something that somebody has submitted, and it's subject to editing. Even Wikipedia says it's subject to editing. The problem is, if they're going to use the computer and internet for resource, make sure to find out what their sources are. Because some of the sources are unbelievably bad in terms of the kind of information they're providing to students. Really bad. Surface versus deep learning. Surface learning, memorization formulas. Do they have to do this? Yes, they do. And do they have to know bones? Do they have to know electrical formula? Do they have to know how to determine volts, amps? Yes, they have to know all of that. That's what we call surface learning. Because they learn it, but until they use it over and over and over and over again, it really isn't up here. My friend Tom next door is an electrician. He was a master electrician in Long Island. He moved to Delaware. He had to retake his exam. He owned his own business and was an electrician for 30 years. He had to go back and hit the books because there's so much stuff that he doesn't have to use anymore. He does it in his head. He's got quick ways of solving and working through things, and he has an innate understanding of what comes next. Just like when you drive a car, you don't sit there and think. Turn the key in the ignition, press on the gas, stop pressing the gas when the engine starts. Take the car, put the car from park into either reverse or drive. Look in the rearview mirror if it's reverse. Step on the gas. Not step. Step lightly on the gas. You have to do this analysis in order to teach somebody else to do it. In surface learning, tasks and skills are broken into planes. In deep learning, they're achieved by comparing this thing to this thing, testing something against something else, and then putting the results together. It's no good if you know how to, I'll use cars again, no good if you know how to section hair if you can't do something with the sectioned hair when you're done. In surface learning, the student only knows what you taught or what they read or did. In deeper learning, constructive learning, the world is their oyster. In surface learning, they're motivated to pass a test. In deeper learning, they're motivated to get an entire picture and use it in their career, to understand and link everything together that you've taught them, so it becomes one whole. This is what a nurse does. This is what an electrician does. This is what a home health aide does. This is what an HVAC professional does. I'd like to start with Bloom's taxonomy. Can anyone tell me what a taxonomy is? It's a rating, yes.
No, naming.
Huh?
I thought it was naming.
Naming? Close?
Like plants or something?
No. Huh?
Isn't it some education going from lowest to highest, highest to lowest?
Yes. It's high to low or low to high. Now, Bloom goes from low to high. Bloom says the lowest level at which you can actually have some knowledge is that you can repeat it. Now, who else can do that? Parrots can do that. Myna birds can do that. That's a fairly low level of knowledge, the fact that you can spit back what you've learned or heard. That's about bottom of the barrel butt, right? Just the fact that I can say something and you can tell me what I just said is the very bottom rung. Surprisingly, an awful lot of testing is based on that. A lot of the tests we give are based on, I told you something, now spit it back. Not think, not use it, not put it with another piece of knowledge and come up with something valuable, spit it back. Probably the poorest form of testing in the world. As I said, myna birds can do it, and so can parrots. They've been trained to do it all the time. The next level is comprehension. They actually understand what you told them. They actually not only can repeat it, they understand what it means. they understand and can apply that to some degree. They have at least an understanding of what they're not just spitting back what you told them, they can elaborate on it. Application. Can use that information. Guess what? No one in your class should ever graduate unless they're on level 3. If they can't use what you taught them, you're sending them out into the world to create mayhem. You know that ad? Mayhem? Mr. Mayhem? That's what we're doing. If they can't actually use what you taught them, they're Mr. Mayhem waiting to happen. The next level is analysis. This is where you as a teacher have to be. If you can't take a complex subject and break it down into teachable pieces, then you can't teach. You really can't. How do you teach somebody something that you can't analyze? That you have no idea what the steps are or how you got there? That you're kind of winging it. Can't do it. The next highest level, he said, was synthesis. That's where you can combine two pieces of information to come up with a new one. I'd like my students to be there. I want all of you to be there. And I would like your students to be able to synthesize. In other words, put together all the things you've taught them and create something useful, purposeful, of good quality. Make sense? I think so. I don't know. The last one is where you are. And that is evaluation. Can determine the validity of the information. Remember when we talked about validating people? Validating someone is simple. It's, I watched you do this. I thought it was well done. I am pleased that you were able to score on the test. I saw your product. I saw the haircut you did. I saw you give a bed bath to a patient in bed, and I liked what I saw. That validation has two reasons for starting with I, doesn't it? One reason for starting with I is you're speaking for yourself. You're taking responsibility. But there's another sneaky reason. When you say, I saw this and I liked it, what else are you saying? I know when something's good or I know when something's bad. I'm at the evaluation level. You're in a sense reinforcing your level of skill and your knowledge. Because in a sense what you're saying is I am at the top in my own field. I have the ability to determine what is well done, what is poorly done. What is acceptable, what needs to be changed or done over. I always like things that serve two purposes. It works better than one purpose. We want to talk about improving the learning environment. Look, they do have to get the basics, don't they? No doubt about it. If they don't have a basic understanding, where are they going? What can they accomplish? And we have to test for that basic understanding. But I would be remiss if I said, oh, so you know what I'm talking about, that's fine. Of course, you're not going to use it. Isn't going to make any difference in your life, but you know what I'm talking about. I want to emphasize, and I want you to emphasize, the higher level skills. Those skills that will set them apart from the mob. Because this is what Ridley Lowell does and does well. Your students are set apart from the mob. Your teachers are a cut above the average. I can tell you that because I've been teaching this course since 1999, and I've taught an awful lot of teachers. And what makes you successful is that your students go out and can do the job and get praised for the job they're doing. Along the way, you have to provide some signposts for your students. See, you're here, and I want you to go here. Well, how do they know when they've gotten there? You've got to give them a test. Either a physical test, they do something, a written test, an oral test, some kind of a test to say, yes, you have completed this. You are successful at this particular activity. If you can make the lectures interactive, do it. Whenever possible. Stop, do, think, pair, share. Ask some questions. Give them a chance to use the information they just got. Encourage your students to do less memorizing. I don't mean of things they must memorize. When I was studying for my LPN, licensed practical nurse, I was 16 years old. And the course, what I loved that everybody else hated was meds. I loved my meds course. I thought it was cool because I am a good memorizer, or I was when I was 16. Right now, Cheryl will tell you, memorizing is not my forte, since she is constantly reminding me that I left my glasses here, there, or everywhere, my sunglasses. I don't wear glasses, but I wear sunglasses. Make sure that your test matches what you taught. You'd be surprised how often tests do not test or are improperly designed and don't test what the student was taught. Does not give you a really comprehensive picture of what they know. A test has to get to all of the knowledge, the surface knowledge, the deep knowledge, the ability to put things together, the ability to come up with a whole, the ability to break down that whole and understand each part of it. Less lecturing. Here I am standing in front of you lecturing my brains out today and telling you less lecturing. But normally this lecture would be 2 days. You're going to get it in one, you poor people. Resource-based. Click. Resource-based learning. That means have the students use the resources that they will need to use when they're in the field. Have them become experts with the resources that they're going to need when they walk out the door. They have to know the equipment. They have to know the terminology. They have to know the use of each thing. They have to be all of not just equipment, but of everything. They have to be able to, when the boss asks them, what about this? They have to be able to say, yes, I do know how to do that, and here's what I will do next. And if they can't do that, you know where they're going, don't you? Unemployment line. Peer teaching, or peer work, or peer group evaluation there. Sometimes we misuse that. What we do very often is we say, hey, Tom's really smart. Rob, not so quick. So Rob, I'm going to team you up with Tom, who's going to bring you along to somewhere where you're not so darn dumb. That is not peer teaching. That is not peer teaching. Peer teaching is where a student researches, does something, and then presents it to a group or class, his team. In other words, the student has gone a little above and beyond and is now presenting it to the people around him or her. Oh, I did, didn't I? Maybe I should stop roaming. Group work. Group work. There are, when we studied learning styles, we found out there were two types of persons. One is the social individual person. This is the guy who likes to get on the computer and get taught by computer. You know, the one that says, we're sorry, that answer is wrong. Please read chapter 2.74 again. That's a social individual learner, and you know them. They're the ones that say, give me the book, shut up, and leave me alone. But there are those social group learners who actually get the most out of interacting. Some of you just took that test. Who was a social individual learner when you took course 1 with me just last week? Social individual. Who was it?
Like to work alone.
Yo. Who was social group? What were you, Jessica?
What do you mean?
You remember the test you took on learning styles?
Yeah.
What were you, social individual or social group?
Oh, social group.
Social group. In other words,
Wait. I'm like, I know.
oh, by sharing and by talking to people and by hearing them talk, you learn more. Group. What were you, Linda? Group? Wow. You got Tony. John, I mean.
That's what I answered.
Group. Janet, group. Individual. What were you? Individual. Terry, what were you? How about you, Joanne? Group. So that means we really should do more of the think, pair, share stuff. First of all, think, pair, share allows students to do the higher level of learning, doesn't it? They're not limited to what you said. They can come up with the other ideas that they may have. Peer evaluation. This is a minefield. Boy, can you get in trouble with that. Okay, everybody, Sam just did this project. Tell Sam what you think about the project. We don't like Sam. Sam's project stunk. He was lazy. He didn't do a good job. I didn't like anything about it. Besides which, Sam didn't present it very well, and I think Sam is faking it. I don't think he worked very... No. Only 2 questions in peer evaluation ever are asked. Question 1, what did you like about Sam's presentation? What did you like? And you have to come up with something first before you say something you don't like. And here's how you put the don't likes. What might Sam do differently next time? Mike, you didn't say Sam has to do what you said. You're going to give Sam some input. Sam can either take that input and say, yes, that's a good idea, I would do that. Or Sam can say that input stinks and I'm not going to do it. Because eventually it's not up to you, it's up to Sam.
You did that for course 1.
Yes. And learning contracts. If you don't have a learning contract with your students, you're nowhere. If they don't know what your values are, and they don't know what you will offer them, what you see your role as, if they don't know what you view their role as, they know nothing. You're not on the same page. You're thinking one thing, they're thinking another. You have to have a written contractual agreement. Because if it isn't in writing, it didn't happen. And those of you who took course 2, you designed a full learning contract. I hope some of you bothered to use it. And even if you didn't, I hope it made you think about it. Okay. ARCs. This has nothing to do with anything. This is for fun. I ran into this. Somebody said, how do you know if you're doing a good job lecturing? Because we do a lot of lecture. Well, it's ARCs is the word, attention. I have the students' attention. I do or I don't. Relevance. Is the material I'm presenting useful to the students? Does it meet their needs? C, confidence. The students feel confidence in their ability to learn and do the job they're presented. And S, satisfaction. Students say or write or tell you or give you indications that they were satisfied with what you just taught them. I thought that was pretty cool. I stole it. On page 18, individualizing the instructivist curriculum. Make sure that everything you teach fits the curriculum and works toward the final course goal. That's 1. Number 2, varied instructional approaches. Do not do the same thing on Monday that you do on Tuesday, that you do on Wednesday, that you do on Thursday, because you are not hitting all the learning styles. If they don't have to be in a group every day, but somewhere they better be in a group if they're group learners. They don't have to work individually every day, but they have to if they're a social individual learner. If they're a kinesthetic learner, somewhere they've got to do something. Multi-level activities for reinforcement. That is one of the most important things you can do. You teach a skill. You're going to have 3 students. One student is outstanding. They do the reinforcement activity in about as much time as it would take you to do it. And then they sit there, and they're bored, and they're saying to themselves, this is a waste of my time. What am I doing here? You're going to have another student who's going to struggle and need a lot of help and time and energy to complete the work. Therefore, you do not have only one level of follow-up activity. You have the simplest level of follow-up activity, the one that everybody should be able to do, with some help or guidance, of course, but they should be able to do it. Got it? Then there should be a slightly higher level for the next reinforcement. So if little Susie Superstar finishes number project, does her thing that you asked them to do when she's finished, there is 3 levels. They're here. 1, 2, 3. Each one gets harder. The brightest students do 1. They are challenged by 2. By the time they get to 3, there's a big challenge for them, a huge challenge. It's asking them to do a lot more than you would ask the average student to do with the same skill or information. You can do it. One size does not fit all. And this is the easiest way to deal with the disparity in the students you have. Everybody should, before you allow them to say it's okay, they should at least complete the first level. But for those students you're nurturing those students who are very bright, who are very talented, who are very capable, by giving them challenges they need to exercise that. My niece Kate has a very high IQ. She graduated from undergraduate school with a 4.0. All A's, Summa. She went for her master's, 4.0, Summa. I asked her. She said when she was at Fairleigh Dickinson, she said, I was bored out of my gourd. Bored. Because she did it all quick, fast. And then she was there. Just there. Ridiculous. We have limited time with these students. Keep pushing them when you got them. Make sure that you give them individual clinic assignments when they've finished with the lecture. Give them ongoing quizzes, tests, challenges to see where they're at. They don't have to be a big score deal. You just want to see whether they're getting or what are they not getting that I just taught. A quick look at what did they get and what didn't they get. You can have makeup classes or re-instruction, I hope. I'm sure you do. And re-instruction is crucial because if, as we mentioned in course 1, if you give a test, if I gave a test to this class, 20, how many people? 21 people. 4 people aced it and the rest failed. It's because you're dumber than dirt. No, it isn't. It's because I didn't present it clearly enough so most of the people understood it. So I better reteach it. Now, reteaching it the same way I taught it the first time fits the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Ain't going to happen. You've got to approach it differently. If it didn't work the first time, it isn't going to all of a sudden work the second. The top schools all provide availability of tutoring for those students who are in danger. Individual help. For the cognitive curriculum, that's when they're in the lab. They can grasp what you're doing according to their style. It allows them a different way of exhibiting their skill. There's more than one way to do anything. The old saying is there's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't like skinning cats. But there is more than one way to do something. It encourages them to try different approaches. Why not? If it doesn't work, you don't do it again, right? And if it does work, you might have discovered something that's a wave of the future. Make sure there's multi-level activities. If you have the student in cosmetology, you have them doing a blunt cut. They do the first one perfectly on base, absolutely perfect. Make sure they have something else to do that's more challenging. Less lecture, more discovery. You don't lecture in the lab, or do you? Little bit. Yeah, you got to do a little. Individualizing the constructivist curriculum. This is funny. It is individual, isn't it? By definition, a project is individual. The student has a chance to design the project based on what they're interested in. Very important that it be part of the field that excites them. That we agree that tomorrow you're going to come in, you'll be at one table with Cheryl or at another table with me. You're going to present your proposal to us. We're going to give you some feedback, and we are going to come to a consensus, an agreement as to the standards. What are you going to present on Sunday? How much can you achieve, and how well must it be achieved? You then do the project independently, right? You go out and do it. Big deal. I am not available. Normally, yes, but I am not. And when your project is completed, you have done your presentation on Sunday, we are going to ask the class to respond to the presentation. What did you like about this presentation? Is there anything the person could add or do differently? Okay? Don't see a lot of nods, but okay. And then what you normally do, if you're using a constructivist method like they do at some of the state universities, most of the learning is constructivist. You complete one project, they assign another, and another, and another, until you have had sufficient information, knowledge, and time in the field.